So the biggest threat to your restaurant's profit margin this week, it actually isn't the rising cost of beef.
Hmm.
And it isn't that massive Friday night dinner rush you're currently prepping for either. It is, believe it or not, the thermostat.
Which sounds crazy, I know.
It does. But I mean, picture this. You're standing in the back office, right? You've got one eye on a spreadsheet, you're trying to manage your food inventory, and your phone is just vibrating off the desk because two of your line cooks just called out sick.
Classic Friday.
Exactly. And right in the middle of all that chaos, someone drops this really dense meteorological report on your desk.
Which, let's be honest, is the absolute last thing you want to look at when you're just trying to, keep the doors open, the fryers running, and the staff from pulling their hair out.
Yeah, you're a busy restaurant manager. You do not have the time to decipher what acronyms like the NWS, the National Weather Service, or like the SPC, the Storm Prediction Center, are predicting for upper atmospheric pressure system.
Nobody has time for that during a shift.
Right. But what if I told you that burying that report under a stack of unpaid invoices is essentially leaving thousands of dollars on the table?
Or even worse, risking tens of thousands of dollars of your current walk-in cooler inventory.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. Today, we've got our hands on the GWT2Energy Weather Impact Newsletter. It was just issued today, March 30th, 2026.
Fresh off the press.
Yep. And we're taking these highly technical, probabilistic weather forecasts, which, includes data from the Climate Prediction Center or CPC, and we are translating them directly into actionable bottom line operation strategies for your restaurant.
Yeah, and looking at the broad view of this report, we really have this mix of quiet skies on one hand, and then severe localized disruption on the other.
Okay, we'll start with good news.
To start with the positive, the tropics are entirely quiet.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there are no hurricanes on the radar at all, and there's actually less than a 1% likelihood of any tropical impact for the next 21 days. So we can take that massive variable off the board completely.
Man, that is a rare sigh of relief for anyone operating on the coasts right now.
It really is. But enjoy the quiet on that front, because the disruptive news is terrestrial.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, a very sharp, intense late March cold front is just crashing down on the northern half of the U.S. as we speak.
Okay, let's unpack this because the most immediate guaranteed hit to a restaurant's operational budget this week isn't going to come from a storm. It's going to come from that massive drop in temperature.
Exactly. Let's look at the hard data for the 7-day temperature outlook. This covers today, March 30th, right through April 5th.
Okay.
The GWT2Energy report specifically tracks what they call extremes. In their modeling, an extreme is defined as a high over 95 degrees Fahrenheit, a low under 40 degrees, or a sudden 15-degree departure from the late March seasonal average.
Well, I'm assuming we aren't looking at 95-degree highs in the Midwest right now.
No, we are looking at the exact opposite of that. This strong cold front is delivering severe below-normal temperatures across the North and the Midwest.
How cold are we talking?
We are talking about major hospitality markets here: Minneapolis, Chicago, Detroit, Milwaukee. The forecast shows lows plunging between 15 and 28 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow. In the late March, that is brutal for an industry that relies on foot traffic.
It really is. It's a 15 to 25 degree drop below the seasonal average. And furthermore, the report assigns a 65 to 85% likelihood of this occurring.
So it's basically a lock.
Pretty much. And this front is moving too. The northeast corridor cities like Boston and New York, they'll also see lows digging down into the 25 to 35 degree range later in the week.
But, let me push back on this for a second. Putting myself in the shoes of a manager in, say, Chicago or Minneapolis.
Sure.
I know it gets cold. Winter is a thing that happens every single year. My building handles 0 degrees in January just fine.
Right.
So why is this specific 15 to 28 degree drop flagged in the report as a moderate to high risk for an energy spike? Like, it says there's a 45 to 65% risk of a major utility bill surge. Why isn't this just business as usual for a northern restaurant?
Well, what's fascinating here is it actually comes down to the physics of thermal mass and, importantly, the timing of the season.
Okay.
Think about how a commercial building absorbs and retains heat. In the dead of winter, your HVAC systems are already running constantly at peak heating capacity, right?
Yeah, they're working hard all the time.
Exactly. And the actual physical structure of your building, the concrete, the walls, the flooring, it's already adjusted to a cold baseline. But a late March freeze is entirely different.
Oh, because the building has already started to warm up from the early spring sun.
Yes, your HVAC systems have likely cycled down by now, or they've shifted into this transitional low-power mode.
Yeah,
Your daily energy budget is modeled for mild 50-degree spring weather.
makes sense.
So when a sudden 25-degree drop hits out of nowhere, the system has to work twice as hard to pull the indoor temperature back up from scratch. It is that sudden departure from the average that causes the immense mechanical strain.
Ah, I get it. It's like, think of your rooftop HVAC unit like driving a heavy delivery truck on the highway.
Okay, I like that.
Maintaining a 70-mile-per-hour speed on a nice flat road in early spring is easy. It barely burns any gas.
Right.
But a sudden 25-degree temperature drop is like abruptly hitting a massive, steep mountain grade.
Exactly.
Like if your transmission, or in the case of your HVAC, your airflow and your filters, if they aren't in perfect shape, the engine is just going to overheat and start chugging fuel just trying to make the climb.
That analogy perfectly highlights the mechanism at play here. When you force an aging unit to suddenly overcome a 25-degree deficit, any inefficiency is just magnified.
So a dirty filter becomes a huge problem.
A massive problem. A dirty, clogged air filter makes the blower motor work roughly 15% harder just to push the same amount of air.
Wow.
Under normal spring conditions, you might not really notice that 15% friction.
Huh.
But under the strain of a severe cold snap, that 15% is the difference between an $80 filter replacement and an $8,000 blown compressor.
Okay, so as the manager standing in the back office, what is the actionable takeaway here to prevent that $8,000 bill?
The GWT2Energy recommendation is very direct. Immediate HVAC inspections and filter replacements in these specific markets. Minneapolis, Chicago, Detroit, and the Northeast.
Get on it right now.
Yes. You must ensure maximum airflow today to avoid massive energy spikes tomorrow. Additionally, you need to ensure your dining room remains perfectly comfortable for the guests who actually do brave the cold to come eat.
Right, because if the dining room feels like a refrigerator, nobody is ordering a second round of drinks.
No, they are not.
And nobody is staying for dessert. They're just rushing through their entrees to get back to their warm cars.
Exactly. And operationally, you really have to acknowledge the reality of human behavior here. A cold snap like this actively suppresses your patio traffic and walk-in volume.
People stay home.
They do. So if you had outdoor tables scheduled to be open, shut them down early. Adjust your staffing schedules immediately.
It makes total sense.
You will not need as many servers on the floor, and you will not need as much prep completed in the kitchen, because your overall headcount is going to drop for these few days.
So you're basically trimming the fat and saving on labor before the slow shifts even happen.
Precisely.
Now, this massive dump of freezing air in the north, it doesn't just stay put, right? Gravity pulls that dense, heavy, cold air south and east.
Guys.
And when it slams into the warm, humid spring air sitting over the central U.S., it acts like a wedge. That atmospheric collision is what triggers our next major operational nightmare.
Yeah. Moving into the 7-day severe weather risk, the mechanics of that collision are really vital to understand. That heavy, dense, cold air acts like a snowplow. It violently shoves the warm, moist Gulf air upward.
Forces it up into the atmosphere.
Exactly. And that rapid updraft creates severe atmospheric instability and wind shear.
And wind shear is what gives us the midweek menace.
It is. The report notes that for today, March 30th, there is just a marginal risk centered over central Kansas and Nebraska.
Okay, marginal isn't too bad.
Right. But the real threat escalates on Tuesday and Wednesday, March 31st to April 1st, as that cold front truly plows into the warm sector.
So where exactly is the target zone for this escalation?
The National Weather Service maps out a slight risk corridor. This stretches from eastern Colorado straight through Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and pushes into Illinois and Indiana.
That's a huge area.
It is, and the target cities here are massive restaurant hubs. We're looking at Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Kansas City, Springfield, Missouri, and St. Louis.
Okay, let's define what a slight risk actually means for the manager on the ground, because honestly, it sounds relatively harmless.
Yeah, the terminology can definitely be deceptive. In meteorology, a slight risk means well-organized, severe thunderstorms are expected, but in small numbers or low coverage.
What are the actual threats, though?
The primary operational risks here are large hail, damaging straight-line winds, and the potential for isolated tornadoes. The report puts the likelihood of a severe thunderstorm at 15 to 25% in this specific corridor.
And the tornado risk.
The chance of a tornado is lower, sitting at a 2 to 8% likelihood.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because there is this massive discrepancy between meteorological probability, and the operational reality on the ground.
How so?
Well, let me put my restaurant manager hat back on. I hear a 15 to 25% likelihood of a severe thunderstorm.
Right.
To a layperson, a 20% likelihood of operational disruptions sounds an awful lot like a solid 80% chance that everything is going to be totally fine.
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, when I am stressed dealing with call-outs and trying to save on my labor budget, why should I spend the time and the payroll having my staff prep for a 1 in 5 chance of a storm?
It is entirely understandable why a busy manager would look at an 80% chance of clear skies and decide to just roll the dice. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, we need to translate how probabilistic forecasting actually works.
Okay, explain that.
A 20% chance doesn't mean it will rain for 20% of your dinner service. It means that historically, when the atmosphere looks exactly like this, with this specific cold front hitting this specific warm front 20 out of 100 times, it produces severe damaging storms in your exact location.
Wow, okay. That reframes it entirely. A 20% failure rate on an airplane engine would ground a fleet immediately.
Exactly. When we connect this to the bigger picture of risk management, that 20% risk isn't just about some heavy rain keeping your customers at home. We are talking about damaging winds and large hail.
Real physical damage.
Yes, a 20% chance of high winds translates to a 20% chance that your $5,000 custom patio awning gets shredded, or your heavy metal patio umbrellas get thrown right through your own dining room windows.
Just because nobody tied them down.
Exactly.
Or, I mean, even more terrifying for the bottom line, the power grid. A 20% chance of a local power outage means a 20% chance that you could lose $30,000 or $40,000 in walk-in cooler inventory. All those stakes, the seafood, the dairy. If your refrigeration backups aren't secured and ready to kick in automatically, you lose it all.
It's stepping over dollars to pick up dimes, right? Risking $30,000 of premium inventory because you didn't want to spend 1 hour of prep cook labor double-checking the backup generator is just a mathematical liability.
Absolutely. So what's the takeaway here?
The actionable takeaway from the source material for any manager in this central corridor is immediate defensive preparation.
Secure the perimeter.
Tie down the patio furniture, retract the awnings, and most importantly, physically check your refrigeration backups. Review your backup generator planning today before those Tuesday and Wednesday storms initiate.
Got it. So if this front sweeps through by Wednesday, dumping freezing temperatures in the north and knocking out power in the Midwest, I am assuming my weekend shifts are going to be completely dead as this cold pattern settles in for the rest of the month.
Well, actually, the data shows the exact opposite.
Wait, really?
Yeah. If we look past the immediate 7-day chaos and move into the 14-day and 21-day outlooks, the entire narrative flips.
Okay, let's hear the long-range strategy then. How do we recover from this week?
Moving into the 14-day window, covering April 6th through the 12th, the atmospheric pattern moderates significantly.
Rain.
We see a 50 to 65% likelihood of sustained near normal or even above normal temperatures returning across much of the eastern and southern United States.
And the frozen north? Do they get a break?
They do. The northern cold eases rapidly. The likelihood of those severe cold extremes drops to under 20%. Furthermore, the severe storm potential in the central U.S. also bottoms out, sitting at just a 5 to 15% chance of a notable severe day regionally.
Oh, wow. So the atmosphere just takes a deep breath and calms down.
It calms down and then it heats up.
Really?
Yeah, pushing out to the 21-day outlook, which takes us from April 13th through the 26th, the probabilities for above normal temperatures increase dramatically. We were looking at a 55 to 70% likelihood of a continued mild and warm shift in the south and east.
That is a massive operational swing in just 2 weeks.
It is. In the south specifically, there is a 40 to 60% chance of temperatures jumping 15 degrees or more above the seasonal average. And the chance of any extreme cold returning anywhere in the country drops to under 15%.
So what does this all mean? Moving from the 7-day forecast to the 21-day forecast feels exactly like the rhythm of a restaurant shift itself.
How do you mean?
Well, you're moving from working the chaotic, high-stress, adrenaline-fueled dinner rush to finally locking the front doors, sitting down in the quiet office, and carefully doing the end-of-night inventory.
Ah, I see.
It is the transition from immediate defensive reaction into careful long-term strategy.
That's a great way to look at it. And this raises an important question for the manager looking at late April.
Yeah.
How does a restaurant capitalize on this incoming massive warming trend without accidentally wasting all the energy money they just saved?
Oh, right. Because if it suddenly gets 15 degrees warmer than average in late April, your air conditioning is going to kick into overdrive if you aren't paying close attention to the transition.
Exactly. The GWT2Energy recommendation here is to optimize your HVAC setback schedules right now. You do this in preparation for the mild rebound.
And for those unfamiliar, what's a setback schedule?
A setback schedule involves programming your building management system or your smart thermostats to automatically adjust the temperature parameters during your close hours or your low traffic afternoon periods.
Meaning you aren't blasting the AC to cool an empty dining room at 3 in the morning,
Right.
or heating a vacant kitchen before the morning prep crew even arrives.
Exactly. As the longer range warmth eases those brutal heating loads we discussed in the short-term forecast, managers can start confidently planning for an aggressive outdoor dining recovery.
Get those patios ready.
Yes. That means you can begin increasing your patio staffing for those warmer weeks ahead. You can comfortably order that extra food and beverage inventory, especially high-margin patio items like draft beer and fresh produce, knowing the weather is actually going to support the foot traffic.
It is entirely about getting ahead of the curve instead of letting the curve hit you.
Absolutely.
So let's synthesize the playbook for our managers listening right now, based on the GWT2Energy report. If you are operating in the snowy North Minneapolis, Chicago, Detroit, or the Northeast, you need to get those HVAC filters changed today.
Right. Think about the mountain grade analogy.
Exactly. Help your rooftop units breathe and proactively reduce your prep and staffing for a slower, colder week.
And if you are located in the stormy central U.S. corridor cities like Oklahoma City, Kansas City, and St. Louis, you need to batten down the patio furniture.
Secure it all.
Rigorously check your refrigeration backups and test your generators for Tuesday and Wednesday. Do not gamble a $30,000 walk-in cooler on a 20% probability of a power outage.
And regardless of where you are located, use this time to adjust your long-term thermostat setback schedules. Start planning your inventory and labor to throw those patio doors wide open by mid-April as the national warm-up takes hold.
It is a highly effective, comprehensive strategy. However, I must include a brief compliance note from the source material here.
Sure, go ahead.
The data we are analyzing today from the NWS and CPC are probabilistic models. They represent likelihoods, not absolute guarantees. The atmosphere is dynamic and changes rapidly.
Very rapidly.
You should consistently check your local daily forecasts. And critically, when it comes to your physical equipment, like those HVAC tune-ups or electrical backup generator planning, always consult with licensed professionals. GWT2Energy provides this intelligence for strategic awareness, but the operator assumes the risk and makes the final call for their specific location.
Yep, the buck stops with the manager. It always does. You know, we have spent this whole deep dive treating the weather as an external enemy. We talk about it as something you have to put up walls against, defend your inventory from, and essentially brace yourself to survive.
Well, it is the natural human instinct when dealing with unpredictable, powerful elements. You play defense.
Right. But I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over during your next shift. If data intelligence like this allows you to perfectly time your patio openings, if understanding thermal mass and atmospheric collision lets you slash your HVAC waste before the temperature even changes, does the weather actually stop being a liability?
That's a fascinating way to look at it.
Right. Does it, in fact, become your biggest competitive advantage over the restaurant down the street who is still just managing their $1 million business by looking out the window?